Okay, so recording is in progress, and just to introduce ourselves here, I'm just going to say we're three astrologers. I'm an astrologer, but these two are much more advanced and you guys are like astrotheologists to the extreme. But Lily, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Lily Walker, and I'm a classical astrologer, and I practice, I'm also a religious educator, and I practice classical astrology from the foundation of esoteric studies and perennial wisdom teachings. And I have a business called Earth Star Observatory, where I look a lot at the theological and spiritual aspects of astrology.
Hi, everyone. Oh, sorry, Lily. Hi, everyone. I'm Mehmet. I would consider myself a syncretist. I like looking at all different fields of knowledge and uniting them. But the main ones I would say would be astrology, astro-theology, etymology, numerology, a bit of gematria, everything really, all into one. But I would say that astrology and astro-theology are two of my favorites.
Yeah, you guys. So I don't even, it's been, I think like maybe 3 years ago, I found you, Lily, online. And about 2 years ago, I found you, Mehmet, online, something like that. And both of you guys, I just like head over heels fell in love with your work and just had to reach out to you guys. And it's really, really neat to be connected with you guys. We're the three water signs.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Mehmet, you want to read us that quote that you were just talking about and tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, because just for those that don't know, like I said, I'm really into astrology and astrotheology, and I like looking at ancient cultures and ancient civilizations to see how astrology played a role in their doctrine or their theology. And in recent years, I've been looking into the connections of how astrology is within the religion of Islam. Most Muslim people will tell you that astrology is forbidden in Islam, and it's kind of seen as like a black magic or something that you shouldn't look into. But when looking at the themes within Islam, like looking at their calendars and their alphabets, it's full of astrology. And basically the two main luminaries it's based on is the moon and Venus. So they use a lunar calendar for their holy days, and also their holy, like their Sabbath, so to speak, is on a Friday, which, as we know, is the day of Venus. So you've got the Holy Trinity. Sabbaths are all on the last 3 days of the week. So you've got Islam Friday, Judaism Saturday, and Christianity Sunday. And also their alphabet, the Arabic alphabet, has 28 letters, which is based on the 28 lunar mansions, which I recently found out as well. So yeah, and I was reading through the Quran recently, and there's a great a section in the chapter of Jonah, which I want to read. I think it's really relevant. It's a very short passage. So it reads, "It is he who made the sun shine a shining radiance and the moon a light, determining phases for it so that you might know the number of years and how to calculate time. God did not create these without a true purpose. He explains his signs to those who understand. In succession of night and day, and in what God created in the heavens and the earth, there are truly signs for those who are aware of him." So I thought that was a really nice passage to basically telling us in here how he created the phases of the moon, and he give us signs, and for those that understand him. So that's for me a clear example showing how God in this context is telling us that we need to know these things to understand him. So that's how I interpret it anyway. Like, maybe a Muslim person reading it would say, oh, you're looking too deep into it, or it might not be that, but that's the way well, it says it there. I'll read it again just to like clarify what it says. He explains his signs to those who understand in succession of night and day, and in what God created in the heavens and the earth. There are truly signs for those who are aware of him. Let me go to read on. There's actually another little bit. But those who do not accept to meet us and are pleased with the life of this world, containing themselves with it, and paying no heed to our signs, shall have fire for their home because of what they used to do.
Wow.
So
Oh, yeah.
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 I feel like honestly that Judith Hill pointed at that same passage, because if it's from Job, it would mean it was in the Old Testament as well. And she gave, I can't remember, I was in her little workshop for a while, and one of the things was how to refute, the people who come at you from religion and say we can't be astrologers, and that she might have pointed to that passage as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, there's loads of little bits here and there. Like I think I've underlined some of them, but I can't remember like the exact parts. But yeah, there's so many things that I've been finding out as well, like in relation to also, because they use a lunar calendar, obviously, like for example, they have just say they have a celebration which is on the 20th of November this year. The following year, because it's based on a lunar cycle, and a lunar cycle is 354 days, it goes back 10 days. So then it will be on the 10th, and then it keeps going back. And for it to come back to the exact same day, it takes 33 years. And obviously, which is so ironic of the number 33 and the significance of it in theology and within like occultism and Freemasonry. Like I found that really interesting. So it just goes to show that the connection between the sun and the moon, like the number 33 is like relevant to that, because obviously it only falls on the same solar day after 33 years. So that's very interesting.
That is.
I also find it like fascinating that they're taking the feminine take by using the moon and Venus. And I'm not at all surprised, because the Romans took the patriarchy, right? So we had the patriarchal, and, no matter what you think about what happened there, there were two cultures that obviously had a clue that the Romans were lying. And it was the Muslims and the Jews, right? And so you can see that, like, you can tell by their flag, because they have the moon on their flag with the star, right? And so, I mean, it just only makes sense that they're fighting for the goddess. I just had to wonder that at what point that quest got interrupted, because I don't feel like they still are. I'm sorry to say that. I don't mean
I agree. It's just, I guess it's the infiltration from, I guess, what we would call the elites, or the people behind who have infiltrated all of the spiritual doctrines and all the spiritual religions. Because obviously in Islam, I don't know if you know of like Sufism and like Rumi and like his teachings. Like I love that side of Islam. It's beautiful. And that was the quote I shared the other day, Erin, on Facebook that you liked, where I said about you don't need to worship if you're true in your heart. Like God will know. So they have a more of a spiritual kind of it's more of an esoteric form of Islam. But then you've got like the traditional Islam, that because obviously in Islam you have like two sects as well. You have Shiite and Sunni. But in the Shiite doctrine, they believe in the 12 infallible imams, which are obviously the 12 disciples. But in the more mainstream religion, they say that's forbidden, because it's like you're worshipping other people where it should just be to God.
Right.
So that divide in their like doctrines as well.
Right.
So I actually found an article which syncretized the 12 imams and the 12 signs, and I'm going to do a lot more research on it. So
Wow.
yeah, I've been looking into so many things, like in relation to, like, for example, how, like, Judaism uses a solar lunar calendar. Christianity uses just purely solar, and Islam uses solely lunar. So you can see it's like Christianity, and like you can see it as a triangle because they are like a holy trinity within themselves. So Judaism would be at the top, and then either side would be Islam and Christianity.
So the one that's the sun, the solar calendar is going to the right on the red shift. The one that's the lunar calendar is going to the left on the blue shift. And the one that's both is the earth star that's going in both directions,
Exactly.
right? See how that works with Boaz and Joachim?
Yep, exactly. Exactly. That's a perfect analogy, because obviously the Jewish system is based primarily on Saturn because of the Sabbath, and like Saturday being their holy day. And obviously it makes sense because if it's like solar lunar, it's kind of the union and like the how can I say, it would be the father, if that makes sense. But yeah, with Christian, but although, like, how can I say, we can say that like Islam is lunar and Christianity is solar. They are, but obviously they have elements of the others in each other as well. Like, because Easter is based on the moon, isn't it? The placement of the moon, like the date of Easter, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Lily?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that they use kind of the sun in Islam as well, because I think I've kind of come to a conclusion from reading the Quran a bit more, and about Muhammad, who, and him being God's prophet, is ultimately it's talking about the sun as well, like Jesus, if that makes sense. That's kind of what I'm feeling as I'm reading it more.
Right. And they definitely, go for the right, with the fight, and the jihad, and they're definitely moving towards the right. It feels like to me, I don't know. But what's curious to me is to go back to the Sufi question, because that was my favorite class in college. I took a class on Sufism and also one on the Quran and Jewish mysticism, all these classes. But Sufism was my favorite, and I was wondering, like, you think about the way they do the whirling dervish, and they find the one spot and they turn, and the direction that they turn, it's all like the Merkaba, right?
Yeah,
moving
exactly.
those wheels, right? And I was wondering, like, this guy, Hazrat Inayat Khan, the mysticism of sound and music, right? And he's a Sufi practitioner.
Oh, right.
Well.
That's really interesting. Is he? Because that's so interesting you mentioned that, sister, because there's a really good video on YouTube about Sufism and their music, and it goes to like all the different countries, like in Asia, Africa, and it shows how their versions of Sufism is different. Like, for example, in Turkey, that like they have the Whirling Dervishes, which they also say is a symbol of the heavens turning as well. And also, if you look at, like, I don't know if you've ever seen them, like a whirling dervish ceremony where you have like the leader, the orchestrator in the middle, and you have all the other guys around him turning. Well, it's interesting because the one in the middle is black and the ones on the outside wear white. So it's almost awesome. Like how Santos says about dielectricity in the middle and magnetism on the outside. So I've noticed stuff like that as well. So yeah.
That is interesting. That is, can I, real quick, going back to, you said that the moon was on the left, correct? And the sun was on the right. Isn't that interesting that there's something about, and I just looked it up in a book. I can't find it right now, but isn't it the, in medical astrology, the women, like the sun rules the left eye on the woman and the sun rules the right eye on the man. I just found that interesting because the moon.
And that's because of Tantra.
Yeah, well, it makes sense to me too. But then, Mem, isn't there something too where they're like, oh gosh, I'm not good at this stuff, but what's the religion where the sun is the feminine energy and the moon is the masculine?
Oh, that's like the Vedic.
Okay,
Vedic,
okay.
yeah. Like
Oh,
Radharani would be the sun and
Right.
Krishna would be the
Oh,
moon. That's
oh,
how Santos teaches it. Yeah.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
But what you guys have to understand is that, like, in practice, like, this is the male aspect, the blue, but
Right.
we see the feminine on top of it. You know, like this is the way that they mix, and Radharani's on this side. Feminine is the red pillar, the sun. But my understanding is, because we're dealing with rotations, that it's actually talking about Tantra by showing us this picture. It's showing us how to practice it. So it's really pretty racy, or like not ladylike to kind of bring up, but we're talking about seating one person on top of the other and the way that they're spinning in the copulation process is what I think it really is. You know, that's why they've got the sun on top of the female pillar, because the male sits on top of the female. And there's also like the idea in the Hermetic understanding, you see the picture of the reflection on the water, like there's the star, and then there's the water, and then there's the star underneath, right? So we're talking about, there's always inside and outside and inside, and they flip, you know, by perspective. So
can I add to that, Lily?
Yeah.
Totally, because the way I see it is that the sun and moon are both male and female in different ways. For example, when we look at the sun, it looks magnetic and it's radiating, so that would be female. But what the effect of the sun penetrating the earth and helping the plants to grow is masculine. Same with the moon, but the opposite way round. So I always say this in my lessons as well, like, although there are kind of set things of this is masculine and this is feminine, you can also like flip it round as well. If you, like you said, one is from an internal and one is from an external. So definitely, I totally agree, Lily.
Yeah, I just think, like, I kind of figured that out. I don't know if it's true. I mean, I've never really told anyone that in person before, because I don't talk like that, like, very often. But like, I think that a lot of symbolism is left for us to try to figure out, and it's only one picture. So it's got to communicate a lot. So if you think about it, that we know that that's part of the process, you know, is that it actually takes two people, right? And so that there's something going on there. Right. Maybe in the symbolism.
Right.
For sure. Like you say, most symbolism or most like yin yang or polarity things, well, it's not really, like you said, it was crude. It's not really crude. That's life, because that's how life is generated as well. So it's just understanding it in a mature way, and if that makes sense. So I totally agree, sister, because like I remember saying to someone that they were saying, oh, the sun's female. I said, no, the sun's male, they were telling me. And I said, yeah, it is, but in some cultures, they see it this way. No, but it can't be, because, yeah, but you can't really look at things in that way. Even us, for example, you guys are female and I'm a male, but we know that within us, we have both male and female.
Yes.
Like we have a right brain and left brain. So it's just knowing it, I think, just being a bit more in the middle with it and being more balanced. And I don't know, I guess it's due to it goes down to like the understanding of that person and their knowledge and the way they see things. You know, some people are a bit more like rigid and Saturnian in their way of seeing something, whereas other people are a bit more fluid. So it just depends really on the person, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's, you know, Mars dominant or something, you know, if it's a biological male or female and they're super Mars dominant, then they're going to have certain masculinities that shine through, you know. And I absolutely see that it's, and I get, I've had some people get triggered by me talking about that sort of thing, you know, but it's also considering the signs, you know, the signs are either masculine or feminine, but we all have all of it, You know, we all have
Yeah.
all of it. I was just on a call, like a school call with Judith Hill yesterday or day before yesterday. And I could tell she had to speak very delicately about the gender stuff, you know. I was like, it's okay, we get it. But
it's like Hermes Thoth. It's androgynous. Each of us are androgynous. And for a
Exactly.
while, we think we're supposed to partner with someone outside until we realize that we're supposed to partner with our higher self, you know? And so there's something going on there. But like when we're talking about gender, we're often talking about, is it extroverted? Is it being rarefied? Is it going out into the world? Or is it internal? Is it inward
positive and
focused?
negative? I think positive and negative is a really, you know, neat way to look at it. Because electricity, you know, it's just when you think about the way electricity works, it's very similar. But
yeah, it's just, I think it's just I think it all comes down to like just your knowledge and how you like, for example, if I said to like a proper like Martian guy who's really proud and patriarchal, I said, you know what, you've got female in you as well. They might think, oh, what's this guy took, for example. Do you get what I'm saying? But that's all just to do with the ego and not not being I just guess enlightened enough to see it in that way. Do you get what I mean? It's not that I don't want to say they're stupid and they won't get it. It's just I think people can get it, but people are too they're like hanging on to their, how can I say, I don't know what the word is, like the whole globe flat earth thing, for example. When you shatter someone's reality, they don't like it because it's like their whole world comes tumbling down. So it's just, again, personally, I think that just all goes down to the ego, really.
Yep, I totally completely agree with that. 100%.
Well, and also accommodation is hard in learning theory. We love to get things that just fit our view so that we can just stack it in there easy. But when you say something that requires accommodation, then the person's got to reorganize their whole schematic framework, and that's work. It's hard. Yep. Nobody wants to do that. Yeah. I was also thinking about like Carl Jung and how he talks about the anima. And so every man has an anima and every woman has an animus, and that it's the opposite sex, and we'll often dream about them, right? And like, so there's this whole quest kind of going on to merge with the anima, you know, or the animus. And so that gender specific thing, you know, and it's just really talking about the whole outside reality, you know, like how do we merge with that, you know? And like I said, we do it maybe in more childish ways or less mature ways at first, you know, as we're first coming into spirituality, like by doing it with an actual person. But really, it's something a little deeper, merging with our soul. And I sometimes think about like how, you know, my perfect partner, my king, is actually on the other side of reality, holding space for me to have this experience. You know, like I'll never find him here because he's on the other side, holding space for me to learn. And then maybe we'll switch spots or something. I mean, I don't know how.
Yeah, that's a cool concept. I've never thought of it like that.
That is.
I live in my imagination.
This is so age of Aquarius talk. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I'll just explain it to you really quick because it's been on my mind a lot lately. Like, what is going on in the world? Just obviously everything. We could just go on and on and on about it. But it seems like, to me, it feels like we are already in that age of Aquarius. And I understand that there's more than one zodiac that we could be going off of here, but it really does certainly seem like we are in that age already, you know, but also still leaving behind that Piscean, we still have a lot of that Piscean vulnerability or even victimization and the sensitivities and the emotions and all that sort of thing. But then we're going into this age of that sign of Aquarius it's all about everybody being their own unique self, but being okay in this large group of that. You know, does that make sense? And it seems like
Yeah.
that's what we're seeing a lot of right now. And I'm being very choosy with my words because I don't want to trigger anybody if we're publishing this.
Yeah, no, I would say like definitely like the way that things are being structured and just the whole vibe of what is going on. It's very, very Aquarian. Like,
Yeah.
but like people will argue, like who, for example, are more astronomy-based astrology or sidereal astrologers will say, "Oh no, but we still have so many hundred years until the vernal equinox actually rises in Aquarius." So, I mean, yeah, it just there's technically the technicalities of that. There is some like variation, but personally, I can definitely feel the Aquarian vibe. It's almost because it almost has that very like it's weird. It's like you said. I can feel both of the Saturn and the Uranus because I do feel this kind of people thinking outside of the box and being rebellious. But I also sense this really like cold and dry, like withdrawn feeling, which gives me the whole of like the lockdown vibe of you being withdrawn from everyone else.
Yeah.
So it's weird. I definitely, yeah, I can feel both of them, and it's almost like almost a bit confusing, if that makes sense.
Totally is. It totally is confusing.
I think personally, so I once asked Santos this because I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner. So I was thinking, no, we're not there yet. You know, Steiner clearly says we have a long time to go. Our mythology is not there yet. And if I looked at the collective as a whole, I definitely agree with that. That most people are not there yet. They are getting there. Shifts are being made. And I definitely think there are forerunners. And I think people like Nietzsche were even forerunners, because Nietzsche is, I think, the beginning of our mythology that starts to describe what an Aquarian mythology, age mythology would be about: becoming the Uberman, becoming like perfecting our part in this collective, wheel of, and being like up leveled to the point where we've reached our potential, and we're like a buzzing, together, like in individuality, but everyone's working together at this up-leveled thing. But I don't think most people are there. But anyways, but Santos showed me this chart where he had heard Manly P. Hall describe what the formations would be astrologically. And then he found that chart, and it was in the 60s. And so I have this chart where he showed me in the 60s where it was like really clear that and the inference from that could be made was that the Saturn Pluto Uranus conjunction of the 60s was the kickstart. Then the square of 2012 awakened a lot of forerunners, and we are the way showers. We are the way showers. But I don't think that as a whole the collective is there. They're so confused right now.
Yeah.
They're still, I mean, look at how confused they are by their leadership and the lies and everything. And they're very Piscean still. They're so vulnerable on both sides, left and right. So
yeah,
it's almost like you said, Lily, obviously we still have it's almost like it's like starting to merge slowly almost. It's not, I know what you mean, we haven't quite gone into the age, but what is it you just said that I was gonna say something what you just said, but I can't remember what.
I think it was Santos's chart.
That's it. Yeah. So are you talking about when all the planets were rising in Aquarius in 1962, 4th of February, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. I've seen that. He's spoke about that many times.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Totally.
Yeah, he showed me it at the kitchen table, and he was like, we are entering it. And so I'm with him on that. And I do think it's possible. So are we in the age if it's possible? Potentially. And we'll start to see the mythologies being written. I think the closest thing we have at this point is the Avengers, like the Avengers series, because you'll see people be like half up-leveled versions of humanity, like as far as mythology goes. I'm also reading The Outsider right now by Colin Wilson, and I think he does a really good job of starting to outline the problems, of what an Aquarian person who is capable of being an Uberman, what they're struggling with being, the forerunners of it.
Do you know what? I think I've explained this to Erin already, but I would like to explain it to you, Lily. Is the Chinese New Year? It's always in the sign of Aquarius.
Well, it's the same. Losar, I do the Tibetan one, and they move it a bit, but yes, it is in Aquarius.
It's generally like around that time, and I don't. Again, this is me. I could just be thinking too much or thinking too deep, but it just kind of struck me that maybe because their whole culture is based on that Aquarian kind of time, it just struck me that the whole sea thing came from China, and maybe it has some connection to the age of Aquarius starting. And I don't know. It's just something that came within me, and I shared it with Erin. But I don't know, because I don't think maybe it's just maybe I'm just thinking too deep. And I also thought about the whole pouring, the pouring of the waters, and Aquarius being like a humanitarian sign. And I kind of thought that the V might have been a symbol of that. They might be using that in their own way, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, it totally makes sense, because I feel like it's like the urge towards, what is it, transhumanism, which is totally Aquarian in nature, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what I
so because sometimes I think about these things and I think, am I thinking too deeply? But then it's just, I don't know, that it's just they're not things I actually look up. They're things that just come to me, if that makes sense. So that makes it even more powerful for me, if that makes sense.
Totally. I hadn't ever thought of that connection. That's really, I mean, interesting, right? I think the things that are so low level, low hanging fruit like that are actually usually right, It's just correspondences connecting them together. I mean, I distrust very much anything that from the Chinese system. I think that they are, and that's not it's not about race or anything like that. That wouldn't be people, that would be their government, because of what they did to the Tibetans. And I do believe that the Tibetans were the last ones holding the esoteric wisdom that we got from Oanis. And I do believe that they still had it. And I believe that because I practiced very deeply their little sadhanas, which are these prayer practices. And boy, they are laden with hermetic magic. I mean, it is just absolutely, they don't explain it to you. They just tell you how to practice hermetic magic. Imagine you're blue. What's coming at you is red. Now send a rainbow, that kind of thing, and it's it's astounding.
It's interesting, Lily, you brought up the Tibetans, because earlier when my cousin was here, we was talking to my brother, we was talking about how Hitler went to the Tibetans to find out stuff about the Aryan race, and he visited them in underground caves and stuff like that. So I know that Tibet and the whole Tibetan philosophy has a lot of wisdom there, if that makes sense. I haven't looked into it too deeply, but one thing I've been looking at, Lily, recently is an old Turkic shamanic group called, and they practice Tengrism. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah,
I've been really looking into that, and because I'm from a Turkish background, I kind of got happy, because I thought, at least we have some kind of spiritual practice or spiritual way of life, because currently Turkish people adopt Islam, but truly that's not the Turkish people's religion. It was being Tengrists, and I've been really looking into Tengrism, and it's syncretism, basically. That's what the philosophy is. It's just pure syncretism, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting, when I was studying Ivan the Terrible and the history of Russia, that a lot of the Russians would, like, at one point the kings decided to go against building a whole Russia because it was different people trying to overthrow them, but they ended up going with the Mongols and letting the Mongols rule over them because they were Tengriists, and they would let them practice whatever. So that meant they would let them do what they wanted as far as their religion. Whereas if they sided with the other side, they were going to be part of Constantinople and then get back to the Vatican down in Rome instead of, do the whole Eastern Orthodox thing they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So Tengrism, yeah.
Yeah. It's the reason why I've got into that recently, because my brother, he like studies a lot of like Central Asian history, like you said about the Mongols and Genghis Khan and yeah, all those like Central Asian countries, because obviously me being from a Turkish background as well, we've always known that our roots as Turkish people come from Mongolia and that region, so we've always had a kind of connection with that part of the world. And it's funny actually, because my uncle, my mum's brother, did like a DNA thing, and in that we had lineage from that area as well, so it definitely makes sense.
Cool. Yeah, and so like a basic definition, don't they have, it's like the cosmists, or like not the cosmists, that's but it's basically very nature based, with like elementals that would come and move like on the wind. This sort of subtlety in religion where they recognize the anima mundi and the way that it interacted with, like they interacted with that as being significant.
Also their homes,
definition.
their homes was called a yurt, Y-U-R-T, but they built it in, they said, the shape of the universe and the cosmos, and it was like they built it as literally like a dome. It's built as a dome, and there's a hole in the top of their hut where they can look at the stars to see what season it is and stuff like that. It's really, really cool stuff. I've really been getting into that lately. And it was talking about how they have like connections with like the Norse mythology of the Yggdrasil tree and the Midgard and stuff like that. So yeah, like it's crazy, like literally like what Santos says, like all is atum, like everything is just goes back to that one root. When you look at all the different theology, not even theology, like even like the shamanic practices, it all has that common root, but it's just, I guess the cultural interpretations of it is what gives it the uniquality and that difference, if that makes sense.
Yep. Totally. So this is a little bit random, but it's like I grew up going to Bible school and came from a very Catholic background and went through First Communion and went through, and just all these little steps. And when I was 13, there was something that I was supposed to do. I don't even remember what it's called. But it was like the next step in that, process. And I just told my teacher, I was like, I don't want to do this. My heart is not into this, I mean, not to say that it's against it. It was just like, I feel like there's so much more to look at, but I never, ever, ever, ever like left the Bible behind. Like I always had, there's something to this Bible, man. Like I always remember thinking that, especially as like, a stoned 16-year-old girl just tripping out on that sort of thing. And then to finally like figure it out, in my 30s, like late 30s, that it is all combined. It's all one. It is all, it's all the same thing. It really is. It's all syncretism. It totally, completely is. And I'm so glad that I never, completely turned my back on the Bible or anything like that,
Yep. Same, sister. Totally. Because do you know what was really weird? I always say this to people. Growing up, I was never religious, but I never, ever said that I was an atheist. I've never said that in my life. There's always something in me that is known or believed that there is a source, a higher power or a source to our creation. And obviously, it's almost hard to comprehend, if I'm being honest. So, like, I don't ever call it a word or God. I just call it the source or the Almighty. So, and I've never denied that in my life, even as a non-religious person.
Yeah.
It's weird. There was something that always attracted me to that. It was, I don't know, I guess it was just that feeling that you have inside you, your gut feeling, I suppose.
Totally.
Which means, what I was going to say, sorry, just to finish that up.
Go ahead.
Your gut feeling is your God feeling, because O and U are interchangeable and D and T are interchangeable. So it tells you in the word. The gut feeling is your God feeling.
I love that. I love that.
When I was a little girl, my mom took me to church every Sunday. My dad never came, but my mom took me to the Methodist church. And I remember being little and like shaking the preacher's hand and thinking he was God. Like I was full in. Okay? Like, I was full in. And like, I loved it. I loved it. I was acolyte. I sat by, like I used to carry the Bible, put the candles out. Like I couldn't wait. And I, remember being 4 years old and sitting in the front row being like, Jesus, come into my heart. You can use me. I am yours. You can use me. And like, whoever was like, all right, we got her. But then I got to college and I was majoring in religious stuff. Well, actually what happened is I started taking psychedelics and I was no longer able to see what I was experiencing within what I had learned at church. Like it didn't fit anymore. And I was really confused.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, shit, I'm going to go major in religion. And so I had a full free pass. Like I could get into UT anytime I wanted. So I was like, all right, fine. I'm going to go to UT and I'm going to do that. And I didn't have a scholarship. I just had I was in. And so I did that. And, I remember just being like so upset when I realized that not only was Santa Claus not real, but Jesus wasn't real, how they were telling me it was real. And I was super upset about it. And then, then going further to like Advaita Vedanta, and they were like, okay, crap, now I'm not even real. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, oh my God. And so like, I got this boyfriend who like was the smartest one I could find. And he taught me about Buddhism. And I went and studied, Buddhism in monasteries and stuff, and kind of gotten to this point. But it was really through Buddhism and doing that really deeply that the angels started telling me to learn astrology. And I was like, why? That makes no sense. And then, of course, now it makes sense. But, just laughing at the fact that like, since the time I was like 4 years old, I was like all in. And you could probably believe that about me because I'm a little bit over the top when it comes to like, the salvation of the world, and the fact that like so many people are just off path and their focus is not what it should be, and that we could change it. And so many people think, oh, that's just how it is. That's just how it is. Yeah. And it bothers me a lot, but oh well.
Yeah. When I tell people, like when I send my prayers, usually it's like the new moon ceremony, that sort of thing. And I almost every journal entry starts with "Dear God and angels." And I always tell people, I am not referring to a man with a beard and a white robe. I'm referring to source. When I'm talking about God, I'm referring to source. And I think of the connection of God and good, right, ma'am? and then the angels, I truly do think, I believe it was the Catholic Church that personified the word angles into angels. I don't remember what year that was, but the angles in our charts and what's the angles of, the geometric angles that are being connected between all those lights up there and within us. And that's what I think of as angels. And there very well could be. I've never seen, an angel. I've never seen one. I've heard people tell stories about, this angel was above my bed, and I want to believe them, it's like this. I've heard stories from people who I really can kind of trust. And I don't know if it was just some sort of a natural psychedelic trip they were having or whatever. I'm not saying I don't believe that there's such thing as what we perceive to be angels, but if there are, I think they're somehow coming through where the angles are. That's where I made that connection for myself anyway.
Wouldn't that make sound? Wouldn't an angle be two sounds that bounce off each other or something? So that would be the source that would create those angels, create those beings, something like this. I mean,
Like
I
the
have had an experience where I did see the chariot swing low, and I saw the whole sky of the Sambhogakaya realm open up, and I could just see the chorus of angels, like for real. But I mean,
Oh,
you know, it has happened, but it's so fleeting. You know, you only catch a little glimpse, and it's by maximum effort to get there. You know, it's like you got to build up so much chrism and then spend it, and then poof, you know, you see it, but it's so fleeting.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I haven't had like the only experience I kind of had was I might have told you, Erin. I can't remember if I did, but um I put like headphones in, and I was listening to like Hindu like sitar music,
Mhm.
and it had raindrops in it as well. And I thought, you know what? I just had a smoke. I thought, you know what? I'm going to shut my eyes and see where I go. And I closed my eyes, and I had this vision that I was, like there's the kind of stories about the four islands at the North Pole being kind of heaven or the Garden of Eden.
Yeah. Okay. Mhm.
Well, I kind of had a like vision that I was on one of these islands, and it was like so like nice and lush, and there was like no one there. But then um in the end, I saw like this yogi guy. He was sitting on like on like the top of a mountain in this like little cave thing, and he was just sitting there silently. And the obviously because of the music I was listening to had raindrops. There was rain at this place as well, but he was just like playing this music, and the message I got from that was he was playing this music so people in Earth could hear him, so they could connect to him. And then like I was one of the ones who connected to him, but he sits there playing this like sitar thing for someone in Earth in the normal world to kind of connect with him. And it was just a really strange experience, but it felt really nice. And when I explained it to my brother, he said that yogi guy was you. That's where you wanted to be. That's why you saw what you saw.
Wow. Yeah, I think maybe you told me that, but I didn't. I'm getting it in a different way now. Wow. Yeah, I mean, we all
I've
have.
had little things like that, like just by concentrating and going somewhere. I've done stuff like that. And yeah, all I did was have a smoke. I didn't like have any like mushrooms or anything like that. Again, it was all through. I know I created it through my mind, but it was just like it just kind of came naturally, if that makes sense. But it was a nice feeling.
Honestly, I feel like ganja it's such like a. I mean, depending, personally, I think it's important that we get like high quality ganja. There's a lot of really weird stuff, coming out these days, but I totally feel like it can open up our perception into being able to see, that sort of thing, and have this whole experience of understanding things from just a different level. It just kind of, I mean, it really does just kind of open up our minds.
Yeah, it also makes me wonder that you see all these like images or these mythologies that we have of people going to different realms and stuff. Maybe it's just purely we can go to different realms once we activate particular senses through maybe marijuana or whatever it may be, through meditation, or it doesn't have to be psychedelic. So I kind of think that a lot of these mystical and philosophical stories are in altered states of consciousness, if that makes sense, whereas it feels so real that it feels like you have actually been there. So like that's kind of when I had that experience, that was like the kind of answer it gave me, if that makes sense. Whereas Shambhala might not actually physically be inside the earth, it might be inside of us. So which
So It reminds me of two stories. One is the story of Atisha. So it's a Buddhist story about like conduct and rules and whether or not you should do things like drink or smoke or whatever. And like Atisha, I believe he was the one that like went and had a beer and then went and put his hand through a rock. And it's like his handprint's still there, you know, so it's kind of there to say, you know, sometimes you got, when you loosen up, that's when you spend the chrism, you know, and it's like, how much have you built up to spend? But this one time, you guys, like I went and lived at Taramandala and I was like, came home and like, I was like, so committed. Like I thought I was going to reach, I still think I'll reach enlightenment in this lifetime, but like, I thought I was going to get it before I was 40, you know, like I was hitting it hard and like doing all this like practice. And I remember I went to this festival, this bluegrass festival. And in the morning, I did my practice by the car and I had the car running and my little boy was inside watching videos and charging his device while I sat there and did my practice. And I did it out loud, but no one could hear because of the car, you know, sound. So I felt okay about that. I wasn't like all nerdy, but I sang it out loud the whole practice. Dude, you guys, that night, something happened to me and they came to me. And it was during that Grand Cross. And this is when they told me to learn astrology and the Flower of Life meditation.
Oh, wow.
So it was that during that Grand Cross that happened just before 2012, I think, or around that time. And I was at the campground and all the fucking sudden it was like the reality changed and it started talking to me and it knew everything I was thinking and my thoughts would be said at me. It was like, I think they call it like, maybe, I don't know what they call it, like an experience of Mahamudra, where suddenly the reality truly blends for a minute. And they were like, you called us, we heard you singing your prayers this morning. We came here to talk to you. Are you sure you don't have any questions for us? And I was just so nervous and like, oh my fucking God. Like, I was like, I'm such an introvert. Like I was scared of them. And I didn't know what to ask. And I mean, that seems so not like me, right? But I was freaked out. And then they started saying, that's when they explained the Flower of Life meditation to me. And they were like, go home and look that up. And then they were like, you know, and you should think about astrology. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
And they also told me something about gematria and that you can count bird calls. Like you can translate bird language. My gematria was another piece of it. Like,
Wow.
like the crow calls caw, 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 that's a 4. If it calls, and then that could be what, D or whatever else is a 4.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Something like this, those things. And it was really weird. And I have to say though, that was only, and that like, it's never happened again. But also I haven't been practicing like that again. Like, I'm not joking when I say that I was spending 6 hours a day in meditation, doing prostrations, doing these things where you like build these rice mandalas, you know, like this very, you know, and I didn't really know what I was doing. It was just on faith.
Wow.
So that's why I think those things work, you know, some weird way.
Yeah, totally. I love hearing about those kinds of experiences, you know, because it's like, it's just, you know, I mean, I've definitely had experiences, no doubt, you know, on drugs and without being on drugs, both ways. But it's like, it's almost like you try to tell the story to people and it's going to sound crazy. It's just going to sound ridiculous. But I know that's what I'm saying when I've had people tell me, you know, this angel was actually literally floating above me. It's somebody that I'm like, I think that I don't think they're lying at all. You know, I think that they really had this experience and just, yeah, I love that kind of story. It's
maybe there could just be dreams as well. Do you get what I'm saying? That have felt,
yeah.
Dreams are like, dreams are so strange sometimes. Because I was actually listening to Rudolf Steiner's podcast. I've been listening to Rudolf Steiner a lot more recently, Lily.
Me too.
He has the most relaxing voice ever. Like
the narrator.
It's amazing. It's like it makes me melt, and I just like sit there and listen to it.
Are you talking about the YouTube channel, like the narrator from the Rudolf Steiner channel?
His name is.
Oh my God, that's so weird. Because me too, exactly. But like I fall asleep all the time listening to it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
Right on that fist
no,
fascinating.
that's okay. But like he was talking about like how in dreams, like there's stuff like that we think about that would like kind of be impossible, if that makes sense, like where we just think about random things. And he says what the brain might do is like combine those unfathomable things with things in your current life, and it kind of mixes the two and makes like this weird reality out of it, like this. It's And that to me like makes a lot of sense, because
Mhm.
I remember I actually had a dream that I met Erin once. I've told you this, haven't I?
Yeah, I had a dream I met you too.
Yeah, I had a dream that I met Erin and we was going to a party. But when we arrived at this party, the house was on fire and there was loads of people like jumping out of um the house. So we just got in the car and started driving back. But then when we was driving back, everywhere was like apocalyptic, and all the buildings were on fire and stuff like that. And that's basically how it ended. But what I kind of think that meant to me was maybe because like me and Erin always say, oh, I wonder if we ever get to meet in real life and stuff like this. And then I think that it was a combination of that with what's going on at the moment and thinking it's kind of an apocalyptic, we're in like an apocalyptic era. And I kind of think it was just a combination of those two things that created that vision, if that makes sense.
That's interesting. That's really funny.
It's almost like your inner world and your outer world combining, because what you think and you feel is totally different to what you do outside. Do you get what I'm saying? I kind of think it's like a merging of the two, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
This experience was like happened though, that like all of a sudden Erin just starts talking and she's like, so like I saw what you did yesterday. And I'm like, what? I saw what you said. I heard what you said. And I'm like, what? And it's like they're talking through other people. And then they start telling me all this stuff about myself that they could not know. Like, and it was like they just inhabited the bodies of other people, almost like aliens or Pleiadians or somebody just came down. And that's why they were like, are you we never get to come here. We rarely come. Are you sure you don't have questions for us?
Oh, wow.
And I'm like not getting I'm just so freaked out by it that I'm like not prepared for this, you know?
No.
And like, I know. And I was so sorry later that I didn't like say, well, you know, what do I do or this or that? But I have had other experiences since then in dreams quite a bit where you like pop in. And I remember like popping into this one place and they're like, wait, who's she? How did she get here? And I was like, me? And they were like, yeah, I don't think you're in here yet. And they were like, and then they asked me a question and they said, what's your travel differential to get to work? And I was like, what the fuck? What's that mean? And then that was it. And they kicked me out because I didn't know the answer. So I come home, wake up. And then I spent like 6 to 8 months researching what the heck a travel differential is. And it's all about the Merkaba. It's all about the Merkaba and the swing. It's called hysteresis. And it means like what we send out has a swing time. And if we don't stay in balance with our mind and emotions and not create an aberration with fear or misthinking or whatever, then it comes back and hits back in at point and it creates. But if we have this huge, hysteresis margin, then it doesn't hit right. And it has to do with karma and like magnetic tape of, physics of magnetic, like how you do recording on like tapes,
Wow.
They want a wide hysteresis margin for like tape recording because it stays there. So, right. So you don't want a wide hysteresis margin in your life because that's recording your karma. You see what I mean? Wow. So like it was all about that kind of stuff. And like, honestly, like I've moved away from that power a bit, I moved back towards wanting to be closer to humans, you know, wanting to be normal and like wanting to like not, you know, practice all the time or do this or that and just wanting to hang out and party with my friends or whatever. But the further I move away, the less they talk to me, you know?
Very
It's really
interesting.
weird. I mean, yeah, it's
You
weird.
mean your friends, Lily? The further you move away, the less your friends talk. Or is that what you're saying?
No, the closer I move to being a human and being normal, the less the angels talk to me.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Wow. That I never really thought about that, but that's really, really true. And so Lily, I'm about to have Neptune go conjunct my sun. And I know you just had that experience. And I'm wondering if that played a part in this at all.
No, that was before this. By the time Neptune got to my sun, I was despondent and existential depression.
Oh,
you know?
okay. Yeah.
Like that was like a big period of existential depression, and it's still square my ascendant. So I'm still kind of like, I'm not sure what to do about this. That's why I mentioned The Outsider by Colin Wilson. It seems to be helping me a bit because it's just about this problem. I mean, a lot of really brilliant minds go insane when they face this material. You know, so without the proper amount of willpower to push through it and keep there with the angels, you know, that tendency to want to go and be fit in can be really problematic once you get to a certain point, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's something about that. But I would say if you haven't, that other people do experience it that way, Erin, in a really good existentially like positive way. It's just for me, it presented as existential depression because it's like, man, the world is never going to listen to me. They don't like any of my ideas, that I can't make money to save my life. You know, like how am I going to live in this world? And I hate it here because they are also so distracted and like it's like I can't even make a go of it. And but you know, that I came through that a bit, you know, but that's how I was feeling during that transit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that, sister, because that's totally kind of where I'm at the minute as well. Like since I got made redundant and I've been like to so many trial shifts and I've started jobs and then it's weird. It's almost like there's been such a shift in what's going on. I can't even be in it. It's like it feels really uncomfortable. And that's kind of where I'm at the moment. And like you said, it's like I've tried about 3 or 4 times now to get back into like normal life and stuff like that, but it's just not, I don't know, it's just not feeling right at the moment. And then like you say, maybe we're forcing something that it's because it's like you have that kind of like that mind game of, oh, forget the real world, but then you think, no, I have to be realistic and I need to be in like, and you have that battle like between yourself, and it's just, yeah, it was weird, like, because I was saying to Erin, like, because previous to when I got made redundant, like the job I was doing was one like my favorite ever job I had. I loved it so much, and since I lost it, I've been kind of a bit just in the air, like with things. I just haven't really met, like I've got no structure. But I kind of thought that I'm trying to look at it in a positive way, that maybe the universe was saying to me, like, look, the world's gonna change now. And like I feel like the universe give me my last kind of job in the real world to be a good one, to go out with a bang. And now my true calling has come, where I have to maybe stick to my more spiritual path and teach my knowledge and stuff like that. So I'm trying to kind of look at it as maybe it's just a transition period I'm going through. I don't know. But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying in regards to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally am right there with you guys. I have a pretty good natural knack of like taking a step back and just going, I'm here for a reason. I mean, yeah, it's so easy to fall into how just being so aware of things from, I just have I think all three of us have a very different perspective of reality and the world that we're living in than the masses. And it is hard. It's really, really hard. I've definitely fallen pretty close into, I wouldn't say depression. I went through some very, very, very severe depression in my like mid 30s, but now I have this ability to kind of take a step back and go, well, I'm here for a reason. Like, I feel like I'm the one who chose to come into this experience to rise above, as much as I can. And, when money's, really hard, just really scary, trying to pay bills, that sort of thing, any sort of little troubles like that, I have an ability to take a step back and go, I always step into the spiritual side of things. I don't know how to explain it, but I just have this ability to detach from the physical world and realize like, it is what it is. It's, I mean, not having a job, regular job and that sort of thing. I went through that pretty hard, like actually really hard before I figured out I wanted to be an astrologer. Man, that was it, trying to practice in like just being a normal person with a 9-to-5 job. That was hell for me. I'm just going to say it. That was absolutely hell for me. But then being able to understand things from a more spiritual perspective. And if I mean, I feel like if I died tomorrow, then, I feel like, oh, well, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not so concerned with what's going on.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean with that. Because you've come to a particular understanding of the situation. Not saying that we understand everything and all that. That's not what we're saying. But it's like you've come to like a what's the word? Like an agreement within yourself, I suppose, that okay, this is what it's about. So it's like you've reached that stage almost.
Yeah, totally. But I also, I fall into it every once in a while. I just have this, I don't know what it is. Maybe it is the angels that help me just kind of pull myself out of that. But it's hard living in this world, man. It really, really, really is. I have so much compassion. I mean, of course, I also live with a lot of frustration seeing what's going on, and just so many people are just without work, and then how do you survive? How do you, it's just, but then I also remind myself, maybe it's just my Sag rising, but I remind myself like, oh yeah, like we're going through this, like, and hopefully within the next 50 years or so, people won't have to do that stupid thing called work. You know what I mean? Like people will, but it'll be work, but it'll be more like service to the community or the civilization, to then be rewarded with something other than, fake money, money that's not backed by anything going into all that, because I do know money is a big thing for a lot of people. I mean, including myself. I certainly, I can pay my bills, but it's not, I'm not living super comfortably like I'd like to be financially. Yeah. And it's a shame to think that we have to,
Yeah. But ultimately, sister, like what you just said is like, for me, like the way I've come to think about like with money as well, like ultimately now in my life, the only thing I would need money for is to eat
right.
and to pay bills. Like, for example, like I don't go night clubbing. I can cook myself. I don't need to go out and eat. Yeah, it's just like my relationship with the outside world is not as much as it used to be. Like I don't go to football matches anymore. Like just there's nothing really that I've need to spend my money on. The only thing I do spend my money on is like buying my little tinctures like for my health and stuff like that, and my oils and my candles, like, which is again just to do more with my personal spiritual life. So that's the only kind of thing that I really spend money on. But obviously, yeah, like you said, we've got bills to pay and we've got stuff to do. So yeah, it's just, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, like you said, everything happens for a reason, and every lesson is a blessing.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And then I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, Lily has a child. Like, that's insane to me. And it's not, I mean, I have definitely had moments been like, geez, that would have been neat to have a little one running around. But I cannot even, it's really hard for me to put myself in that reality of having somebody that you're 100% responsibility, or you're responsible for.
I could easily be a renunciate. I could have nothing and live on the earth. You live on the land. I could go at any point,
Right.
but I'm responsible for someone else. And
Yeah.
the Zen people try to tell me I'm not that important. And I'm like, oh Lord, if only I wasn't that important. You know, that's a Zen koan kind of thing. You're not that important, to kind of get you away from the ego. But it's like, mothers, you can't say that to a mother,
No.
because
Yeah.
mothers are really important. But, you know, I'm kind of thinking about it, even the existential depression is even more so, because it's like, you know, like when I walk into Walmart, the first thing I think is, I wonder how long it's been for people in here that they stopped to wonder who the fuck the first person was. How did they get there, and what are they doing? Right? Like, I like walk around looking at people thinking, I wonder how long it's been since they wondered that. I mean, not really, but like just walking in Walmart makes me think that, you know, because I think that shit every day, you know, like I don't stop thinking that, like I can't get over that. And it was just this really huge depression, realizing that there are tears of awakening, and that a lot of people are always going to think I'm crazy. They're always going to think I'm too much, too religious, too this, too that, you know, and they're never going to listen to me, you know, and I'm trying so hard to share with them so that we can uplift society, and they're never going to listen. So not only will I never have a job that, like, I mean, I'm not trying to be like pessimistic and create things by my mind, but like chances are I'll never fit in a systematic society. I'll never have a high paying job because I can't make the little tweaks every day that go against my conscience to keep it, you know? And so I'll never be able to do that, you know, and I'll, you know, probably all these different things, you know, that will not happen for me. And I, you know, like I can't, why even talk about politics? They're never going to choose a candidate who I would support. You know, I'm constantly bringing the truth and be like, don't you see? And it's like, why am I doing that? Because no one's ever going to really listen to me. And it was just a big depression over that, because it's like, I have insight, but they're not capable of receiving it. Like, it's not like they're not ever going to be capable of understanding it, was the realization.
yeah.
You know?
Do you know what, sister? It totally goes to what you just said. Like, this is the kind of realization that I've come to as well with certain things. I'll just say that some people were just not meant to get it, and they're not going to get it. And like, it's just, it's not like I've given up, but it's just kind of to think like, sometimes the truth hurts. That people, like, we want to help people, but they don't want our help. But although that hurts, we just have to accept it, because ultimately the truth is the truth, and that's it. Do you get what I mean? So yeah, definitely. I know, I totally get what you're saying, Lily, because I think that as well sometimes. I just think it's very, I think it's very frustrating when you're doing something which you really feel from your heart will benefit everyone, but then the other side of me says, you know what, like, we was talking about this the other day downstairs with my brother and my cousin. We was just saying, like, literally we are all like universes within ourselves. We're all living in our own world, and it's just like this mad combination of all these different universes, and they're just like, how can I say it? It's just they're not at harmony with each other, and it's just causing this chaos. But again, we know why that is. That's due to like us being programmed a particular way or to think a particular way. And yeah, it's just sometimes I think it's sad, but then there's another side of me and just that says, look, we live in the world of polarity. Maybe this is how it's supposed to be.
Right.
So
Right.
Yeah, I just felt like someday I would be able to explain it in such a way as I would fit in. And that's kind of the theme of this outsider book I'm reading. And I really feel like that. Like, so I really believed that someday I would perfect my art to such a degree that I would fit in with everybody. But really, that's not going to happen, because it's always kind of going against the stream, going against the grain, going outside. And that the largest part of society does not have the capacity to understand it. And in this lifetime, they never will, but they will eventually. It's just right now they don't, you know.
Right.
And so how can they all they can do is say you're wrong, because they don't see what you're seeing. Like they don't have the capacity.
Right.
And so it's just very depressing, because it's like, wow, you know, I wanted to fit in with you guys, but there's no place for me, you know, or this or that. But I do think that like the Buddha taught, though, you know, there's a tendency at that moment to stop preaching, to stop talking, to stop teaching. But you can't, because some people will get it. There's only a little dust in their eye. Yeah. And you know, and plus there's lots of people we do connect with, especially when you reach out online, right? Like suddenly we've got people, right?
Right.
But it's just in your little town, right? You know, or in your, you know, it's getting bigger because of the internet, but still in your everyday reality with your friends you went to college and high school, you know, like I desperately want to fit with them still.
Wow.
And you know, and I love those people, and I thought eventually I would be able to explain it in such a way that they'd be like, yeah, we get it, Lily, we finally get what you've been saying all this time. And they don't. So, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean, sister. It's like sometimes like you think about, I was thinking about this the other day. I was driving somewhere and I drove past one of my friend's house, who he used to be my really good friend like in school time. But like I've lost like total contact with him, and like it makes you wonder. I wonder what they're up to, or wonder how they are, and because I guess it's just that innocence, that child innocence of you. Like when you think back to that time, you had nice memories with that person.
Mm-hmm.
But like then when you guys, it's sad that it's like when we get older, we kind of, it's almost like, I guess you could see it like a tree, like how at the start we're all together in the root, and then as the tree sprouts out, we all go our separate ways, if that makes sense. So that's the kind of analogy I would give. But I guess we always want to be at that root part where we was all having fun together. Do you get what I mean? So
yeah, and I don't want to be an antagonism with them. You know, how am I going to realize the you know, the merge if I'm like and on the outs with them, or if I'm, and you know, if we're representing things that aren't, you know, how do I love them again when they hate me or they cast stones at me, or you know, how do you deal with that? It's just a paradox, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely the huge pros of the internet, because I mean, I've fit in with plenty of people in high school and that sort of thing, but I also was like such in my own world, like totally in my own world. Every year my mom would be like, do you want to have a birthday party? And I was like, no, I just don't want to go to school. But it just, who I've become over these last like 10 years, it's looking back to the vast, I mean, I honestly, there's probably one girl that I went to high school with, two. I just reconnected with a girl, but the vast majority of the people who I spent any length of time with growing up, I don't think I would, I wouldn't enjoy, maybe seeing them for 5 minutes and crossing like, oh, wow, it's great to see you. Oh, you got kids. But to be like, yeah, why don't you come over and we'll hang out? And I feel like I would be really bored with the conversation.
Yeah.
And the politics thing, like, what the hell? That's one thing that I just don't get it. How do people think that the system that's in place is going to work? How? It just doesn't work. You know what I mean? And this whole thing, that's a major theme in my family. Hardcore Trump fans versus hardcore just orange man bad people. And it's just this whole, like, they were so into the elections and they're still so like, oh, but this is going on over there, and just involved with the politics stuff. And I'm just going, my eyes just glaze over. I just go, I don't understand. I just don't understand that part.
Sister, do you know what it is? Someone explained it once, and I think they explained it in the perfect way of, like, you see, like, what's going on outside is like a movie, for example. And we are like the ones spoiling the movie for the others, saying, oh, like when you know what's going to happen, you say, oh, you've seen it, or you just know. You say, oh, this is going to happen. And people are like, oh, don't tell me. I want to watch the movie. And that's exactly how I see life. Is like, we're the ones telling the people, oh, this is going to happen, because we already know the script.
Right.
Whereas they're seeing us as, oh man, these guys are spoiling my fun. Like, I don't want to know the script. I want to just go along with the flow. And that's exactly kind of how I see what's going on, like using an analogy, if that makes sense.
Wow.
Do you think it's more stressful to know the script though, don't you? Like, that's why we're
Yeah,
all
I
like,
guess it is. Exactly.
we know, we're like, he's coming.
Oh my gosh. Totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Hence the saying, ignorance is bliss, that saying. So it comes down to that ultimately. But
I feel like I spent like literally the vast majority of my life being like just in this existence, feeling like frustrated because I guess like intuitively or somewhere in there, somewhere I knew that it was basically all just a lie, and then I hated the world. I really did. And I don't mean to use such a strong word, but of course I had friends and I love my family and, whatever, but I just was always like, ugh, like what the fuck is going on? Why am I here? Always thinking that, why am I here? And then once I, forgive the term, like woke, like realize like, oh my gosh, it really is all lie. Like this really is I feel like 99.9% of the things that I was programmed with was not truth, was not real. And I feel a lot more bliss just finally going like, oh, okay. It just makes more sense to me now. But I do.
Yeah, it's like, sorry.
I know it's okay. I do understand the ignorance is bliss. And I also do understand that it is stressful to know the script, or frustrating, especially, and wanting other people to be on board. I gave up. Unless somebody comes to me and very specifically starts asking about, things like the shape of the earth or, how astrology works or anything like that, then I'm happy to share what I have learned with them. But I just, I can't be one of those people out there screaming from rooftops what is really going on. It's too frustrating to me. But what were you going to say, ma'am?
What was I going to say?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What was you talking about?
Just talking about that. It to me, I have an easier time now internally anyway.
That's it. I remember now. Sorry, I remember.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, life's just become one big aha moment for us, if that makes sense. Like what you were saying, you just realize kind of now where you are, and that's just like, it's like become, you know, like one of them, like where you just sigh, like
Yeah.
one. It's become like one of them moments, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's weird. Like sometimes I have so much mixed emotions on things. It's like I've noticed, because I'm a Leo rising, whenever the moon is in Leo, it's like I get angry and I want to like be really like. That's when I notice whenever I start having rants on Facebook is whenever it's a Leo moon. And I was like, oh shit, I'm trying to seek some attention here. Let me pull back. It's like you start noticing your own weaknesses. And so then I like, and yeah, I just like things like that. But yeah, also that's another thing I was gonna say is obviously we're all like heavily influenced by the element of water. So we feel things a lot more intensely than others do. And that's one thing where it's just like, oh, like sometimes I'll be like chilling out, reading something about like what's going on, and like because I get this like feeling, it's like oh, so I have a twitch kind of thing just to get that like demon out of me, if that makes sense. It's like because the feeling's so intense, and I think that's all to do with our like water, the psychicness, and yeah, it's I think it's like the part of being a water sign I like, because you can kind of what's the word, like you can feel people and like kind of comfort them and stuff like that, but on the flip side, feeling the negative vibe and the energy, oh, it's quite like, especially the last week or so, it's been really weird for me.
Yeah. Lily, you're Cancer deacon, right? Like your Pisces Cancer deacon?
I'm 18 degrees. Is that, yeah, that would be Cancer
Yeah.
deacon.
Yeah.
So I'm Scorpio Pisces, yeah.
No, you're Scorpio. Wait, you're.
Or does it go in order, or does it start? So it would be Scorpio, then Scorpio.
Yep.
Cancer, then Scorpio Pisces, yeah.
Is that right?
Or that's so crazy you brought that up. I was going to ask you that the other day because I was talking with someone about this, because we was talking about deacons yesterday.
Okay. So Scorpio. No, you would be Scorpio Cancer.
So it goes, yeah, in order and then comes back. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, because I trip out on, I just, all I have is Uranus in Scorpio, but my Scorpio deacon, like I swear, I think that's a potent part of us, like our astrological design is that deacon, I think plays a big part in us. And that Scorpio energy, like I feel like I get it. And also my mom was a Scorpio sun and moon, and we were very, 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 very tight, my mom and I, in a weird way. We fought like hell sometimes, but we also just, we're super, super tight. And I just like that, what you were just talking about, that like twitch, that like, oh, that energy. And I feel,
yeah, I get that a lot.
I feel that, where it's like, it's just so intense. It's so intense. But anyway, yeah, being a water sign, being the water signs.
But I say like watery, but like most of my chart is fire.
Me too. Yeah, you got a lot of fire.
Yeah. I'm fire and air, just the one water placement.
Oh wow.
Oh. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, because I'm 40% fire, 25 and 25 of air and water, and then just 10% of earth. I've only got one earth placement. That's my moon.
At least
and
you
I
got
have
that.
none.
Yeah.
But Lindsay was telling me the other day that through esoteric astrology, he's like, you're a Virgo. And I'm like, what? No. And he's like, because of my earth placement, apparently. Your earth placement, maybe it's the opposite of your sun sign. Because he was like, you come off so Virgo to me. And, just very demure, and I do come off very Virgo, I think.
Yeah,
and so
I can see that.
Yeah, but don't you kind of, because you just said esoteric astrology, because I watched Manly P. Hall once, and he was explaining that the Masons, or in esoteric astrology, if you're a Pisces, you're actually a Virgo, because the sun is directly opposing that sign. So it's like you're the opposite. So you would also be a Virgo, and I would be a Taurus
That's
in
what he
that
was saying.
system.
Trippy.
Yeah, so because I was watching something about the death of David Bowie, and how he's either a Cancer or a Capricorn, and then he died in the other one, and they were saying that how it was like a ritual or whatnot, and it was saying it was based on esoteric astrology, how you actually are the opposite of your sun sign. But again,
And
I
the way-
haven't looked into that too much.
And neither have I, but the way he was saying it was like your earth is in that. So if your sun is in Pisces, your earth is in the opposite sign. Something like
Right.
this.
I can
So
get that. I
that's-
can totally get that. I totally get that.
So would that kind of coincide with like the Earth, as in the globe Earth, would be in that sign? Is that what you mean by that?
That's what he means. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I get that. Yeah.
I mean, because but that would still be the earth. That would be the earth star. It would be like where your feet are. It'd still be the earth,
Right.
You know, the plane. It doesn't matter if it's a globe or whatever, but yeah,
Oh,
I don't
right.
think, but maybe it does. Maybe you know more than me. I don't know enough, and I need to go back and learn that.
Yeah, neither do I haven't looked into it too deeply, but I have looked into it. Do you know what I've actually got into? Someone put, have any of you looked into astrocartography much?
Yes.
No, not
Yeah.
enough. You
Huh?
have
Love it. I love it.
Yeah, I started like looking it up yesterday, and I was seeing like where all my planets were, and it was so interesting because my Venus line was going straight through Holland and Amsterdam, and it was saying that Venus, in relation to astrocartography, is where you have your pleasures and your luxury. And I've been to Amsterdam 9 times.
Wow.
So that made like so much sense to me, and it was showing that my sun in Asia would be like, which is where you supposedly would feel most comfortable in the world, is like around Saudi Arabia and Iran and like Sumeria and that kind of region. And in America, my Mercury was going through California, and my sun was just west of California as well. So it's really interesting. It's quite new stuff I've got into, but
You should look into it, Lily. It's really
Yeah, because that's immediately got me thinking about the Merkaba and the synchronizing the wheels, and like, wait a second, now we've got the whole country on the wheel. That was just like, whoa, I could do something cool with like that set me off kind of to space, thinking, wow, because I could syncretize the whole, not only like myself and my immediate with the, the ecliptic around me, and then the opposite way, but also like the whole country, or the whole globe, the whole earth. I could I could like put that correspondence on my planets and then have that wheel.
Yeah.
It's all internested.
Check it up. It's really easy to check. You just go to
I think astro.com.
a website, and you can just type your stuff in and it like comes up.
Yeah.
So many different areas you can go into,
I know.
Yeah.
And it's so funny too, because all of the like in my astrocartography chart, like it all goes through the middle of the freaking ocean. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? But the Neptune like just goes straight through where I live. And, I've got Neptune very close to my ascendant, and I'm a Pisces. So many times in my life, I was accused of doing drugs when I really, really wasn't on drugs. But it just makes, I am so Neptunian that just like, woo, what? Like, where am I? Somebody could be sitting there telling me like the greatest story, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, I don't even know what the hell they just said. I was somewhere else.
I think we all do that to a degree, but like, my Neptune is in Sagittarius, and I can say I do like to have a smoke and look up philosophy and stuff like that. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think all of our Neptune is in Sagittarius, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Have you got many planets in Sagittarius, guys?
Both of us have like a very, it's what our rising sign is off by like a degree or two.
Yeah. Yeah, I have 5 planets in Sagittarius.
Right. Yeah.
I have Mercury and Uranus conjunct on 8 degrees. Jupiter and South Node conjunct on 16 degrees. And then I have Neptune in 27 degrees, all in Sagittarius, all in the 5th house as well.
Yeah. I'm always.
So I guess that's where my love of philosophy and theology comes from.
Yeah.
Sorry, Erin, I didn't mean to.
No, that's okay. That's okay. But no, I thank God every day for my Sag rising because, you know, Pisces, Cancer, Moon. I just feel like I'd be total freaking sap if I didn't have that Sag rising.
Right. And the Sag can play ball. You know, Sag is good sports, cheerleaders, we can play ball. We can rally and be like, all right, I'm pretty sappy, but I can play ball. Let's go play.
Yeah,
you know, or
totally.
throw the ball around. Yeah. Of course, we've got a pretty high-end ball over here that we're volleying, you know, not just football, but you know.
Totally.
We can I think of it like popular in like the socias or like socialites, you know, Sagittarius can really put a polished face on, I think, but.
Yep. Totally.
Do you guys know your signature sign? Do you know what that is?
Did you?
Yeah, your sign signature. I can't remember what mine is.
My one is,
my clients.
Yeah, my one is Leo. So basically that's because I have mostly fire. I have planets in mostly the element of fire, mostly the quality of quality of fixed. Most of my planets are in fixed houses and most of them are in fire signs. So then you get fixed fire, which is Leo, which is my signature sign.
I think mine is, I do remember looking this up. Mine is.
I think your one was Aries, wasn't it?
I think it might be, it's either Aries or Cancer. I might be confusing it with I can't remember. It was some weird thing that I used that you could figure out. I think they called it actually your dominant zodiacal ruler, I think is what they called it. And for me, it was Cancer because the Cancer moon, but then also, well, I was also using Placidus then. So it was my 4th house that was packed. So, but it makes sense to be Aries too, you know, Venus, Mercury, and South Node in Aries, but.
Yeah, I have so much fixed energy. I'm a Leo rising, Scorpio sun, Taurus moon.
Oh, wow. You're getting hammered this year.
Yeah, what else have I got? So if that is fixed, I've got nothing in Aquarius. But yeah, obviously, so I've got a lot of fixed energy in my chart.
I'm a Gemini sign signature.
Really?
Mutable air. But like, if you guys do you guys watch Harry Potter? Have you got?
I haven't seen it. No, if I'm being
never.
honest.
What the heck? I mean, I would say I'm a Ravenclaw, though. You know, I'm definitely air. I'm also Gryffindor. I'm a hardy Gryffindor, but honestly, I'm not an extrovert. I'm much more Ravenclaw, which is the air signature. And Slytherin's water, and Hufflepuff is earth. So just, you know, if people are wondering how that works, but those are how she assigned the houses.
It's funny, Lily, because like I totally see the Pisces in you. I totally see the Sag rising. I do see the Gemini moon. That one I didn't see that right away. But the Aquarius energy, your Venus conjunct Mercury in Aquarius is something that just stands out to me because honestly, I feel like if there's one placement that if I could, I would love Mercury in Aquarius, especially conjunct Venus, because it softens it a little bit. It's not too much, but at the same time, it's just that ability to that the brain. Just so, I love that placement.
I think it's interesting from a medical astrology perspective, and maybe someday I'll tell Judith this, because I mean, she probably already knows, but I think she'd like to have it in her case files. But it's third house, right? So it's our communication skills and like everyday communications. And I've got freaking, Mercury at 29 degrees Aquarius with Venus conjunct at 23, and so it's Asperger's. I have Asperger's. And so you see that, it's like a medical thing. And then it's like my Gemini's and my moon and Mars and Gemini are 7th house, right? So you'll see me often reach out to like really high level teachers. Like I reach out all the time. Like I'm forceful and aggressive about that, trying to bring those people into my close-in world, make partners with them to make them my teachers in the close-in world. So I do have it does have a beauty and a gift that comes with it, but it's nevertheless very hard placement. I don't know if I have any easy placements. Maybe my son in the 4th, like I always say like the solar sun, not my little boy, but the sun in the 4th house, Pisces, is kind of nice, but it's square the moon. Like I just don't have a rest place in my chart.
Yeah, I've got a few Gemini placements. I've got my North Node in the 11th in Gemini, and I've got Chiron in Gemini as well.
My Jupiter's in Gemini.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I guess it's not supposed to be good though, right? Is Jupiter at fall in Gemini?
What I like about it is it falls in my house of relationships, but for some reason I've like made a lot of really good Gemini friends, a lot. And I've noticed that like they tend to like bring me luck and all sorts of things like that. That's what I do like about it. But yeah, no, it's not.
I get on well with them.
What's that?
Yeah, sorry, sister. I didn't mean to cut you off there. I'm so sorry.
You're good.
Yeah. I was saying I get on well with Geminis as well. I have quite a lot of Gemini friends.
Your North Node is in Gemini, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not, it's actually, there's no sign that I don't, there's just certain things about every sign that I like. I'd say probably that sign of Capricorn, I don't have anything anywhere near Capricorn to me at all. Like there's nothing Capricorn in me. So I think, although I was very attracted to a Capricorn when I was younger, but I still like, I really, really like have a lot of, I wish that I had that ambition of that Capricorn energy. I wish I had that stability and that sort of thing. But I don't know, I guess what I was saying is that every single sign, I can totally find the qualities in every single sign,
So your Capricorn would be in your 2nd house, roughly, isn't it?
Yeah. I've got something going.
Yeah.
I've got.
So that's good in a way. At least you've got one good thing about all of our charts is if you do a whole house system, is that the elements line up. So we've all got fire risings and Earth in the 2nd house and so on and so on. So that's one good thing that I reckon we all have in common.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like a bit of a head start, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I would still think that you still had as a strong resource Capricorn, and depending, on how you do that with your Saturn, but like, that is your resource, like is your own grit. When it comes down to it, you're going to pull up your bootstraps and you're going to get it done. You're going to be there for yourself. And that's me too,
Yeah. Totally. Totally.
You guys want to talk about the USA Pluto chart for a second?
I totally want to. Yes, here. I'm going to let me take a smoke, drag up my smoke. It'll be right there.
Okay.
Start
have you looked at it much, Mehmet?
I haven't, sister, but I've heard. I was watching Erin's video on the full moon, and she mentioned it in there about how it's a return to when the United States started, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're having, so the Pluto's returning to the spot that it was, if at the time that we signed the Declaration of Independence or whatever, 1776. And what I found is really interesting was related to the president's chart. because his birthday is tomorrow. And
Oh,
so,
great.
yeah. And so I did his whole predictive package. And if you notice, what you'll see happening is that his star, which I noticed was how he won, the day he won, this was the star in play, his Jupiter in the eighth. And the United States Pluto is getting ready to, is making an opposition to that. The Venus retrograde is getting ready to come right over that. So I noticed by transit, it was really interesting the way his chart aligns with that. So I did his directions and his predictive package. And what I found there was really interesting. Like, yeah. And and there's just the talk about, have you guys seen that they're talking about potentially replacing the vice president?
Really?
No.
I have seen talk of that, like in articles. They're not like, making it really public, but there is talk about her performance level. And that part of it is like, it's not unheard of to replace her and get a different one. And it makes me wonder if by chance,
If that could play a part in Pluto return.
because, well, I was thinking Venus retrograde, like she's a woman, and like, like the changing who it is, which woman it is or whatever. I don't know. I just don't know how strong, considering what's going on with China, et cetera, like how strong of a leadership we would have if something happened to him. I think we'd be really vulnerable. So I just wondered if potentially they were trying to get ahead of that, because many of the astrologers I'm talking to on the back end, much more advanced than I am, are seeing things that, I don't want to say it outright because it's just not polite. I think he should hire me or one of these guys as his astrologer and potentially do what Ronald Reagan did and avoid the Tengrism curse by way of his wonderful astrologers, because we are starting to see things in his chart coming up somewhat soon. So
Yeah, I'll just be blatant with my opinion. I think the guy is just toast, dude. I'm sorry. He's just, and it's hard. My mom had dementia, that's what took her out. And so there's a lot of things that I see Joe Biden do. And the only reason I even watch this stuff is because, like I said, I got family involved. There was this whole, we'll skip that story. But anyway, like, it was because my mom's birthday falls on, when she was alive, it's on November 4th. So her birthday falls, right around election time. And so it was always like a big thing, but it is, if he was just any other person, if he was somebody that I knew, I would probably shed tears for seeing what, he can't talk. He can't even, hold a conversation. He can't. How do people, this is what I'm talking about. Like, how does anybody like go, oh yeah, like that's the leader of the free world. You know what I mean? It's like such a joke. It's
like us water signs, like we were saying, like I see it. I feel it from him, just this childlike wonder that's beginning to set in. And that's what happened to my grandpa. He had Alzheimer's and he turned into a little boy. He was so sweet. We loved him so much. He was a colonel in the army and a bit fierce before he got Alzheimer's. And then suddenly he was so great to be around. He always was great. Like my grandpa and I got along, but suddenly he was just really easy to be around because he was like not formidable at all. He was like a kid. And that's what I see on his face. But one thing I found in that primary direction thing was that his Mars is approaching that Pluto. So by primary direction, which is like secondary directions, but a little bit different technique, his Mars is like, Pluto's on his Mars, which is what's making him so tyrannical at this point, right? You notice he's turned very tyrannical, about the V and stuff, and is just like not at all seeing other people's perspective. It's a dumb way to go. And anyway, so I saw that, but his the Mars is going to get his Sigi and the opposition. So it looks like potentially, there is a curse that comes with the 20-year cycle. So that would be, if it's a Mars aspect and his Jupiter's in the bounds of Mars, if it's a Mars aspect, that would be an attack, And Philip Lindsay put something up the other day that clearly showed health concerns leading to a heart attack. So that would be an attack, right? But, Tengrism's curse or whatever is more of a assassination attempt.
Now I'm just pulling up the United States chart and Joe Biden's chart. And so I'm like looking at what you're talking about. But this Pluto return thing, going back to that, dude, can I share the screen and show like what?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Share. All right. So I was really tripping out on, I didn't even realize it was in the second house, which makes the fact that, okay, so here, let me just pull up just the chart, display just the chart. Okay, so this is the United States chart based on, when the Declaration of Independence was signed. And here's that Pluto right on the, and I'm using whole sign. I haven't even looked at Placidus. Let's see what that's like. Editing to Placidus. I think it's still going to, yeah, it's still in the second house using Placidus or whole sign. But that, to me, the way I'm seeing things, that second house, that house of money, possessions, and values. And then on top of that, what is happening with Uranus going through Taurus, I think there is going to be major shifts in more and more people are starting to see that money is backed by nothing, really. You know what I mean? It's like, it's what the hell? It's just a piece of paper. And now it's more like just digits going through a computer somewhere that are, counting as somebody's value. It's so bizarre to me, and it very well could crumble. I did buy into some crypto. I did, because even though I've never, I spent so many years of my life just with this, like, I'm going to learn to live without money. Money's terrible. Money makes people greedy, that sort of thing. But I'm also progressing to the sign of Taurus pretty heavily. And so I'm also like starting to evolve and understand the value of material things. And it seems like a lot of people are starting to realize that just the whole system, the banking system, the monetary system is not even real. Like, it's so, and not like that, but it's so corrupt. It is so bad, it's like, it seems like it couldn't get any worse. And I feel like that's going to crumble. I do feel like crypto is going to get big for a while, but I also feel like at some point, while Pluto goes through Aquarius from 2024 to 2044, I think even the crypto stuff might crash.
Yeah, I think, like what we was going back to talking about, like the job stuff earlier, sister. Like, obviously Uranus is in my 10th house, so
right.
That's probably shaking a lot of things up as well. So
yeah,
it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, and I think the imprint of this eclipse that happened last night, it's not like the whole thing is like, it's not, eclipse is not like a one-day thing. An eclipse is like a 6-month thing, it's like an imprint, that's like there. And the fact that Venus was trying to Uranus, in the second house is again saying lots about money, lots about our resources coming in. And what I'm trying to say is that this Pluto down here at 24 degrees, see in Cancer, if you go across and that 8th house there, this is the same. Joe is he is a Sag rising. So 8th house is his 8th house, and that's where his lucky star Jupiter is. So this Pluto is making an opposition to his Jupiter, and by primary direction, his Mars is there with that Pluto. So that's making him tyrannical. But then also the opposition to his Cancer, which is 8th house, house of misfortune, is, potentially showing us that the Venus retrograde may bring another him, because that was that Jupiter was really in play on the day that he won, which is how I predicted it. I predicted he would win by his Jupiter. And so now we're seeing that Jupiter get the opposition and get the Venus retrograde coming in. So to me, that's signifying a new person in his position. So along with the changing money, and I think we're, somewhat screwed when it comes to China. Like, I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but like, we do need a very strong leader. And I don't know that the one that we have to take his place right now is going to do us all that great, or the one we have, if we lose our position as a superpower.
Honestly, I hope that the whole thing crumbles. That's just, I don't think it's going to happen right away, but I do really hope that the whole thing just falls apart, because I don't think there's any potential for us having success with there's always going to be, if things keep going the way they are, there's always going to be this, like, it's basically a 50-50 split between red, blue, the right wing, left wing. There's always going to be people pissed off. There's always going to be, and it's not working. It's just not working. And I really do. I'm kind of hoping that this Pluto return brings some sort of a destruction to the whole structure of it.
Well, that's the way I went in my video, which was, ripping apart the crystallization of the flesh. We've all been hoping for that for a long time, because it's been really hard for the 99% of us. But nonetheless, in the situation of world politics, I freaking want to be a superpower. I'm sorry, but it's scary to me to think about a major world war and these sorts of things. And considering just in America and ripping apart how our structures work. Okay. But when you really think about it, it's somewhat frightening. And so, nonetheless, I'm still like, let's go for it. I do want spirit. I want to rip apart the flesh for the spirit, but
yeah, I do.
But
and that's another thing too, is like going back to having a child, like you've got a child. That's a whole nother. Don't get me wrong. I've got 6 nieces and nephews that I love, more than anything. But I don't have that concern of like, what's going to happen to my child, with the world falling apart. I don't have that. And I have so much compassion for you having experienced that. But
I tried so hard to raise him as a conscientious objector. Like, I literally gave him that line from the time he was 2 years old. Like, I've been like, you're a conscientious objector. You're a conscientious objector. And he's like, no, I'm not. I do take heart in the fact that like the kid is extremely skillful at war games, digital, put him on a drone. Like, he's going to go right to the top of that class. He is like in the top % of people who can navigate that kind of thing. Because I'm honestly talking about a draft here. Like, what happens if my kid gets drafted? Like, what do we think about that? That's the scariest thing ever for a mom. Like, I've raised this kid. He's like, you put my whole heart into it. And like, what happens? And like I said, I tried to make him a conscientious objector all the way. Like, I'm such a philosopher. He could have easily picked up that, but he's already shit all over it. There's no way people are going to believe if they look at what he's posted or whatever. Like, I don't know, maybe they would, honestly, deep in his heart, but I don't think he would want to go that way. It's like Fury. What's in that movie Fury? Like, I'm the one that's showing up to fight for everyone is basically what they're saying, like in that movie Fury.
Yeah.
Do you know what's interesting, sister? Like how we're kind of talking about money and what's going on, and you hope it all goes down. Like I kind of almost think that maybe what is happening, like in life at the moment, is kind of almost telling us that money is overrated in general anyway, if that makes sense. So it's like kind of, yeah, well, so what if you've got money? It don't mean you're free, or it don't. Do you get what I'm saying? So maybe in a way that what I'm trying to do is trying to get a positive out of a negative. Maybe in that sense that because of what's gone on, people's attitudes towards money or towards having material things might change. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just always try and get the positive out of it. But at the same time, again, like I think that there are people who are so addicted to that material way that they would go through any cost to get back on it, and whether that's kind of giving up their own body or giving up their freedom to do so. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's definitely like you said, there's that 50-50 split there.
Yeah,
I'd be 100% for it. Like, give up, because I don't care about money or any of that. But the one thing I have that's like a thing is my kid, you know? And like, so then we're starting to talk about a different situation, because as we see with these mandates and things, you know, that like I'm powerless against these mandates. I totally lost my job just like that, you know, and like I can't fight it. And so the, you know, the lion's share of people win. And that's what I'm talking about. Gets so frustrated because they never listen to me, and they don't even have the capacity to hear what I'm saying. You know, these people that will end up, I'm in the soup with them. I can't get out of it. You know, I'm stuck with these people, and I can stand on the outside, you know, but they sometimes I'm necessitated, like I'm pulled in.
Yeah.
Lily, do you mind if I ask you a question? Like, you see about like I don't know maybe if you want to answer it or not, because you might be sensitive about the subject. You see, like you had to lose your job because of making the vaccine mandatory. Did you like look into like any, for example, I know it's a bit too late now. I'm just kind of curious to know, like, was that by law, or like what I'm saying? Is it because, you know, like they kind of sometimes dress things as being the law, but it's actually a legal process. So like, did you kind of think about or look into that? I'm just curious if you did or not. Or
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
because here in Oregon, it's my state. I live in Oregon,
yeah,
and so they pre-adopted this. Now the country's saying it's unconstitutional all along, like for everyone. I mean,
yeah,
at least that's where it's at right now. It's not, hasn't been fully decided, but Oregon jumped the bandwagon. My employer additionally jumped the bandwagon themselves, because they weren't forced. I wasn't forced to. They weren't forced to adopt that. They decided to,
yeah.
and they thought it would be fine. And I was the only one. I was the only one in the whole congregation. And here I am working with organized religion, thinking I can do this. But anyway, no, whenever they said that they were going to be requiring proof of V at the front door, I said, I'm sorry, but I can no longer be affiliated with your organization. And I refuse to partner with you if that's going to be your stance. And they said I could submit a religious, at first they thought I mean, it went through some different drama, but ultimately I said, I will not test. That makes absolutely no sense for me to submit bodily fluid to you. I'm not a criminal. I have done nothing wrong. I'm not a drug addict. There's no reason I should be giving you bodily fluid to come to work. And you're making me an untouchable and all these different things. And I said, I wouldn't do it. And because honestly, the science didn't even support it, because that weekend, the White House press secretary came down with COVID. And I was like, that the Lord handed me that one, because they love the Dems. And that lady would have been a keynote speaker, invited in with, roll the red carpet out for that lady. And she had COVID that day, and I didn't, you know? And so I just thought that's really stupid, and I wouldn't do it. So I didn't pursue any legal recourse. I let them terminate me for non-compliance. I did insist that they terminate me. So
Fair enough. Respect to you, sister. I totally commend you, because at the end of the day, hence that saying, if we stand for nothing, we fall for anything. Do you get what I mean? So
Totally.
like, I really honor you that you've put your morality and your you're saying, no, I'm standing up for who I am and what I believe in, and I really honor you for doing that.
I taught a lot of people in that by doing that. Like,
Yes.
they did not ever think. And so like, to their credit, they're like older people, right? They didn't really think it through. And some of them, you know, would have been like, oh, good, we're getting rid of Lily. Some of them were really upset about it, you know? And, you know, the truth is that just always working with organized religion is difficult. It's very hard. And so I was having to mask quite a bit on a lot of my beliefs. But nonetheless, good things were happening. I was teaching children about good things. But, you know, when it comes down to that, and I was going to have to like not say anything about my kids getting ready to be subjected to that, and me not say anything, I was like, no, I'm sorry, but I have to say this very loud. I have to be very loud here because I need you. If you will support me, and we will go to the UUA and we will now say that we do not support mandatory proof of these things, then, and you'll support me in that fight, I'll take it right to the UUA. But they wouldn't do that. And I said, well, if you won't do that, then I'm out of here, you know. And that's, yeah, you just have to, because otherwise it's like you're not teaching.
Yep. Yep.
No, I commend you, sister, like 100%. And I would have done exactly the same thing. So
our family has been on this road for 18 years. This is not a new thing for me, you know, and it's like horrifying to me to think about being forced to do that or forcing my kid to do that. That's been a fear, that's been a horror for a long time. I do not want that. And so I really, and you know, here in our state, they tried to pass that in 2017 or 18. And it was only because the Republicans literally jumped out a window. It was coming to vote and they went to the bathroom and jumped out the window to avoid the vote. That's the only reason that we didn't have mandatory V here in Oregon ahead of coronavirus. So they're laying the groundwork. They've been laying it for a while, whatever they're doing here.
Because someone's telling me about Austria. Apparently, all the unV'd have to be on lockdown, apparently.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
But you know what I also think, sister? Sometimes that these news articles of, oh, like everyone in Austria who hasn't had the whatever now has to be locked down. I kind of think that these are psychological games to get people to go and do it, because they think, oh, wow, if they're going to start locking people down who hasn't had it, then maybe I should go and get it. So I think sometimes as well, like, a lot of it is all mind games as well, but I don't know. I mean, it's different all around the earth as well, because obviously different countries have different laws and different things. So, you know, it's
yeah, but Austria wasn't, I mean, I'm sorry if I'm wrong and uncultured here. So you guys are going to know more than me. But I mean, that's like where The Sound of Music was filmed, I think. And like, wasn't it communist for quite a while?
Austria, I'm not too sure, sister, if I'm being honest. I don't know.
Not either. I don't know what their politics are, but it's interesting that they're the first that's starting to say, actually, they're starting to mandate for everyone, is what I'm starting to see. Yeah. So
but the thing is, how it's hard to know how accurate that really is unless you know someone there, or do you get what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. These could be things just being put in the air to scare people. That's what I'm saying. So we've got to try and read through it all, or just try and take it with a pinch of salt rather than thinking, oh, and start panicking. Do you get what I mean? Because that's what leads you to make silly decisions from panicking. So
that's so true. And also my Gemini moon will just take like a drama and run with it. But like, because I mean, it's kind of like loving drama, right? Gemini moon. But like, we have to remember not to be in fear and like to stay back, because like, really, it's not as solid as all of that. And we can, you know, we can manipulate the arising a bit, you know, or steer clear of this or that happening, you know.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm real hesitant. You know, that's never been a way that I treated medicine. That's not a treatment protocol that I've signed up for in a really, really, really long time. And I mean, we're starting to see that it doesn't even work. So, or whatever. It's about as effective as a flu shot, which means you got to get multiples, 4 or 5, you know, 4 at this point. So I don't know if that's the best way to treat it. Anyway, we all are probably on the same page there, but yeah, it's very interesting. You know, another thing I said in my most recent video was with Pluto, you know, it really depends on how you're taking it. It's either like a will to power or a will to like the Dionysian urge to rip apart, right? So there's still like a lot of people who've got a will to power. And even though the Titanic hit the ice in 2019, they still have a will to power. So old money is going to seek to create new orders for their money.
Yeah. I see
And
that.
so we are not out of that yet at all. And so it's just interesting, how will we fight, and we just got to stay on our game.
What's interesting too is I kind of got to get going here soon because I've got a reading at 3
No problem.
between. But I just wanted to say that I love how Judith describes Pluto as our spiritual drive. Like Mars is our physical drive. I mean, it's amongst other things. There's lots of things I could say about Pluto. I love Pluto personally. I have a really good relationship with Pluto, but that spiritual drive and in the anaretic degrees, oh my gosh, you guys, I think 2024 is going to be nuts. I really do. I think it's going to be nuts. It's that spiritual, like if you think about it in the sense of like, it's going through Capricorn, it's creating destruction with everything that sign of Capricorn represents, and then getting into like the dangerous degrees of it. And it does involve our spiritual drive for those of us who are like, this is my vessel. You are not going to take a needle and put something into my vessel, and you're not, that's my spiritual drive says absolutely not, and I feel like that's a lot of people. I think there's, I don't know what the percentage is, and I'm not going to believe anything that they tell us on the news about the percentage of people who think it's a good thing and the percentage of people who are saying, hell no. I don't know what the statistics are, but the people who are standing up for this is my body. Like, you're not going to make me do that. I think that could come in strong. I really do. And it's so authentic. It's so like, that spiritual drive can be even more powerful than the physical drive, if you think about it, So I do think things are going to get really, really interesting with that whole thing.
Yeah.
You're a Libra Pluto, ain't you, sister?
Me too.
What's that?
Libra Pluto. Your Pluto's in
Yes.
Libra.
Yeah. But I also, it's Pluto's, and I think it's kind of similar with Lily, like Pluto's fairly conjunct my North Node and also my midheaven. And, I struggled so hard just trying to figure out what the hell I wanted to do with my life. But once I figured it out, I was like, oh, if I work with the qualities of Pluto, this can be a really good thing for my North Node, what I'm becoming and that sort of thing, and putting it out there into the public. And I don't know, I just really, I like Pluto. I think he can do some pretty badass things.
I wanted to ask you guys though, real quick, if you guys have noticed that they're propagandizing the word woke, awake.
Right, I know.
And that they started that forever ago, propagandizing the word woke. And I didn't notice it for a long time until I noticed it. And I was like, crap, that's actually not the best thing. They're propagandizing the word woke, because it had to do a lot with how awake you became under the Pluto Uranus square as to how you're relating to this situation now. Because I'm thinking about it, like pre 2019, we were all already talking about this.
Yeah.
All three of us already knew what was gonna happen,
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, in some ways, because we were awake to what was happening, the way things were organized. Then they started propagandizing the word woke. And now they have the Trump campaign is Reawaken America. And it's under the heading of one religion, one God, one nation, which is dangerous AF, because that's like a Salem witch hunt. You can see how they like that right team in the propaganda wheel goes after Hollywood for being demons, for being Masons, say the word Mason on the flat earth page. Like, you're going to get attacked because they don't like any of my occultism over there. And that's because they misunderstand. It's been propagandized. I mean, in some respect, they don't understand it's not the magic, it's the intention of the magician. And there are tons of white magicians working on the right team. Yeah. But I just noticed that propagandizing of the word woke, and it's like really starting to bother me. So I'm pushing back against it.
You know what you said, sister, about it's not about the magic is about the intent of it. Like totally, because I posted something that I did, a lesson I did about the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life and how it connects to the planets and the zodiac, and I got attacked for it from a person. Erin knows what I'm talking about, and they said, "Oh, why am I promoting this paedophilic Luciferian stuff?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, I'm relating it to astrology. It has nothing to do with that." But again, it's like what you said, because people have a conception of a particular thing, they will just make an assumption straight away. Do you get what I'm saying? And I think that's really sad.
It's been propagandized. It's part of that red wheel of propaganda, you know, and so it's already all mixed in there, going with the adrenochrome and going after the Hollywood pedophiles or pedophiles, every say. All of that is mixed in with occultism, is mixed in there. And so it's a way that once the red team wins, they can get us, the artists. And that's exactly what they did in the Bolsheviks. That's what the Bolsheviks did. They got the people on board, and then they got him afterwards. And so I'm hesitant, you know, like, where's the anti-V campaign has me really feeling really stoked about the red team. I'm hesitant to give them my affiliation, because then Michael Flynn comes out right away and says, reawaken America, one God, one nation, one religion. And I'm like, well, crap, that's the most important thing to me in the world. So now what am I going to do? I can't vote for you. It doesn't matter who we vote. I mean, vote, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, I just want, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You know?
Yeah. We just need to keep praying, meditating, creating better scenarios, you know, but you know, there's nothing wrong with the word woke or awake. Like, I'm not about that anymore.
I totally, it is, to me, it's like the most, I've tried to think of, in fact, I think Mehmet, you used this term one time. I wish I could remember it, but because I was talking about that word, you know, wake up, or, you know, woke or whatever. And the thing is that to me,
I remember.
To me, that's what it felt like once I realized, like, just for me, it started with, this is retarded, but the Sandy Hook thing. It started with the Sandy Hook, you know, all of a sudden I'm watching stuff going like, you know, this really does make a lot of sense what these people are saying. You know, this does seem like it should at least be okay to question what really happened that day. You know, and then that just kind of led me down into the rabbit holes, and eventually just getting to this point of like, it feel like I woke up. It does. It feel like I was, but then again, I also feel like just intuitively, I always just knew. I just always knew that something wasn't right. Something isn't, it's not working.
You know what? I just thought of an analogy of what you said, that you was awoke and then you just quickly, it's like when your alarm goes off and you don't want to get out of bed. And then once you initially get out of bed, you've woken up. So it's like you was awoke, but you just kind of didn't put no effort to get that final step. So that's kind of the way I just like imagined it in my head. Sorry.
Totally.
Yeah, because it's not comfortable once you get out of bed. That's for dang sure.
Yeah.
Getting attracted.
I don't know about you guys, but I totally went through this, like, you know, phase of being like, I just want to tell everybody. And, you know, I thought it would be easy for everybody to see things. Have you guys ever seen that documentary called Thrive? Okay. It was it was probably 2013 or something when I saw this long documentary about just, you know, they just made it very clear that there's a lot of secrets, you know, a lot of things that we don't know about is just the normal people walking around the world. And, oh gosh, where was I just going with that? I went through this phase of being like, everybody will be able to see this. Everybody just needs to know. We just need to get the word out. And then starting to talk to people about things and just looking at me like I'm fucking crazy. And it was upsetting. It was very upsetting for a little while. But then I got to this point of like, whatever. you know, or
Sorry, I'm laughing, sister, because you're making me remember similar scenarios, and that's why I'm laughing. Because there's sometimes where someone's like said to me, "Oh, can you explain it?" or a bit, and then I go to explain it, and then I think to myself, I said, "You know what? I'm not even going there.
yeah,
Forget it." It's just
Totally.
like, because it's gonna. Like sometimes people say to me, "Oh, can you teach me or can you show me how you know something?" I say to them, if you've got 7 years of time,
right, right, right.
then I can show you. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not just, you can't just, maybe that's another thing that we have to realize also within ourselves, that it's taken us so long to engulf all this knowledge and see the world the way we do. Then maybe we're not realistic in trying to tell someone and
Right.
expecting them to get it straight away, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
The
So
first thing we tell them is to meditate.
yeah,
If they
Yep.
want to get it, the first thing they should do is start to meditate, because really what you got to do is increase your capacity.
yep. That's so true. That is very true. Okay, you guys. So do you guys have any last minute things you want to say? I have a reading in 36 minutes. I gotta eat something
Let's go.
before I do that reading.
Okay.
No problem. Do your thing, sister. Totally.
I
And
wanna
I've really
say-
enjoyed this. Thanks for putting it on. And yeah,
Of
great,
course.
great evening.
Yeah, for sure. I think we should do it again. It's been awesome.
And I want to say feliz cumpleaños. Hoy es tu día.
I don't know.
Happy birthday. Today's your
Oh,
day,
thank you.
brother.
sister. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.
Love you guys. See you
Love
soon.
you.
That was super fun. Bye.
Bye.